November 2nd, 1948. It's a cold night in Washington, D.C. The country holds its breath as votes are tallied. The early editions of newspapers hit the streets with the now infamous headline, "Dewey defeats Truman." But in this version of history, the headline is right. In our alternate timeline, Thomas E. Dewey, the sharp-jawed Republican governor of New York, does defeat incumbent President Harry S. Truman. Radio broadcasters announce it with astonishment, and Truman, en route to his home in Independence, Missouri, receives the final word. The long-shot campaigner has lost. America awakens to a new era, one not led by the fiery, plain-spoken man from Missouri, but by the polished, moderate Republican from the Empire State. Like and subscribe for more. Also, don't forget to hit that notification bell for more history documentaries. Please watch the video till the end, as good interaction would help the performance of the video and the growth of my channel massively. How did Dewey win? What changed? In our real timeline, Truman pulled off a stunning upset by conducting a whistle-stop tour across the country, energizing labor unions, African Americans, and rural voters. His relentless campaigning and fiery rhetoric reconnected him with the people, something Dewey's overly cautious campaign failed to match. But in this alternate timeline, Dewey adjusted course in the final weeks. Perhaps he listened to his advisors, who urged a more assertive strategy. Maybe the Chicago Tribune held the presses, waiting for more returns. Or crucially, the Democratic Party split between Truman, Strom Thurmond's Dixiecrats, and Henry Wallace's Progressives proved fatal. Voter turnout in key Rust Belt states dropped just enough to tip Michigan, Illinois, and Ohio into the Dewey column. The fallout: Truman's reaction and national mood. Harry Truman, ever the scrapper, gives a brief but humble concession speech. Behind the scenes, he's crushed. He returns to Missouri, deeply concerned about the future of his Fair Deal programs and civil rights initiatives. The northern states are divided, some disillusioned by the results, others cautiously optimistic. In the Bible Belt, many white voters who had leaned toward Thurmond feel uneasy about Dewey, a New Yorker who supported some civil rights policies, but they also feel relieved at Truman's defeat. The labor unions, black voters, and liberal Democrats are demoralized. The progressive movement fizzles as Henry Wallace's supporters find no place in Dewey's America. President Dewey, the early years. Thomas E. Dewey is sworn in as president in January 1949. His cabinet includes experienced moderates and conservative business leaders. Figures like John Foster Dulles emerge earlier as Secretary of State. Dewey, pragmatic and business-friendly, favors policies that reflect Republican orthodoxy, balanced budgets, limited government, and cautious internationalism. Unlike Truman's Fair Deal, Dewey does not push for sweeping domestic reform. He resists calls for national health insurance and a broad expansion of welfare. Civil rights progress slows. There are modest anti-lynching efforts and support for integration in the military, but no major legislative push. Foreign policy and the Cold War. In foreign affairs, Dewey maintains a hardline stance against Soviet expansion. The Truman Doctrine becomes the Dewey Doctrine in practice, though less passionately articulated. The Marshall Plan proceeds largely unchanged due to bipartisan support in Congress, aiding in Europe's recovery. When the Berlin blockade ends in 1949, Dewey claims credit for Western resolve. But when North Korea invades South Korea in 1950, Dewey responds with caution. He commits U.S. forces under the UN flag, but seeks to avoid expanding the war, meaning no firing of General Douglas MacArthur, who may have been reined in earlier or even not appointed to lead in Korea. domestic affairs, and civil rights. Dewey's civil rights record is mixed. As governor of New York, he had a progressive record, but as president, he avoids confrontation with Southern Democrats. Federal anti-discrimination laws stall in Congress. Integration of federal agencies and the military proceeds slowly, lacking Truman's aggressive executive action. Labor relations stabilize briefly as Dewey works with business leaders to avoid strikes, but his administration is less friendly to unions than Truman's was. The Taft-Hartley Act remains intact and is enforced with vigor. The 1952 election, Round 2. By 1952, Dewey's presidency is seen as competent but uninspiring. The Korean War is still ongoing and inflation rises. Republicans renominate Dewey, but Democrats see an opening. Adlai Stevenson, too, with his intellectual demeanor and backing from the party establishment, again becomes the Democratic nominee. This time, without Truman as a predecessor, Stevenson positions himself as the voice of thoughtful progressivism. Estes Kefauver challenges him in the primaries, but fades early. In a tighter-than-expected race, Dewey loses re-election in 1952. Americans are weary of stalemate and seek change. Stevenson becomes president, ushering in a delayed New Deal revival. Would Dewey face assassination attempts? Harry Truman survived an actual assassination attempt in 1950. Would Dewey face something similar? Possibly. The Puerto Rican nationalist movement still exists, and its grievances remain. An attempt may still occur, perhaps with Dewey at the White House or Blair House. Given heightened security under Republican leadership, Dewey likely survives. But the attempt leaves a scar on his presidency, strengthening his resolve on internal security and anti-terrorism. Long-term impacts and Dewey's legacy. Thomas E. Dewey would be remembered as a transitional president, not a great reformer, nor a wartime hero, but a manager who kept America stable through turbulent times. His cautious, moderate brand of republicanism may delay the rise of Eisenhower-style centrism, or pave the way for it with a model of pragmatic leadership. Without Truman's second term, the fair deal never fully materializes. Civil rights legislation is delayed. The Korean War ends differently, likely earlier, but without bold moves like MacArthur's firing. Nixon's rise may occur differently, lacking the checkers speech moment. The Cold War proceeds with a more muted rhetorical tone. Dewey would not be remembered as a transformative president, but as the man who broke the Democratic New Deal dominance, only to be replaced by a resurgent liberalism a few years later. Conclusion: the victory of Thomas E. Dewey in 1948 would have changed the course of American political development, not dramatically, but perceptibly. Truman's aggressive civil rights stance, Cold War policies, and labor reforms would be absent. Dewey's presidency would reflect mid-century conservatism, cautious, managerial, restrained. His one term would serve as a political palate cleanser before the ideological battles of the 1950s and 60s. What do you think? Write your opinion and version of the story in the comments below. Please be polite and kind. If you want to know what would have happened if John B. Anderson had won in 1980, click on the video on the left. Thanks for watching.